We can still start with Bitcoin, actually. It's just some crazy shit's going down on the stonks. All right, so we technically held the next retest of this. It's a bit unfortunate that it was so close to the previous lows because now we're kind of stacking liquidity at the bottom there, which is not good. Of course, the past couple of years, stacking liquidity has sort of been the meta. It wasn't really a thing years ago, but it's becoming more and more prominent over the last couple of years. Still don't think we're out of the woods just yet, but there is some things to pay attention to as far as the relationship between Bitcoin and the stock market and what's in store for that. So tons of open interest hitting the books today. We've got stacked liquidity on both sides of the market. We got big leverage on both sides of the market. So if we do consolidate here, it's going to be loading a really big move. If we don't, then we're going to get some big fireworks today. Of course, the first big pockets of liquidations are sitting at 104.5. So we just have to get above these highs here, and then we'll start to see some floods coming in. There's also, stack liquidity at the bottom side of the market here as well. So it's very obvious where the short sellers are setting up shop, at least with invalidations, and where the longs are setting up shop with invalidations. So we've got short sellers dogpiled at the highs, where the invalidations are resting. We got longs at the lows. As far as the lows go, there's a void here. There's actually a void on both sides. So we went straight up here, just below these lows, and we went straight down just above these highs. So we're loading up a big move here. Depending on what happens, obviously we're going to have a good idea of what the supply and demand's looking like. If we go low, you guys know where to look for. I've talked about it plenty of times, which is 89. But holding this right now is the FOMO rally is still holding strong. We've got a long ways to go before I'm going to be confident that we're going to make a new all-time high sooner than later, right? We've got some highs we need to take out. We've got the route back to the top is going to be a bloody one if we can do it sooner than later. If not, then obviously 89 still on the table. So we've got stack liquidity all the way up. There's multiple instances where we have stack liquidity on the short selling side of the market. And then we've got some pretty key levels that are still on the table here for Biddy on the top side, which is around 118. But obviously the first thing we want to see is what happens if we actually do go for the highs. Can we maintain it? So getting above 104, pretty much getting to 105, getting into this pocket here is where we're going to have the first sort of example of if this rally that is trying to form is going to have any demand that actually backs it. As far as the icebergs are concerned, we saw a lot of them setting up shop here. On Wednesday, market started to dump, icebergs got lifted, and we saw some big market smashing coming in on the sell side. So lots of fear hit the market pretty hard yesterday, but the price managed to do okay. Now we got icebergs setting up shop on the bottom side of the market, which is pretty good. Liquidity right now is thick, boys. It's about as thick as it has been in all of 2025. So we got plenty of liquidity on both sides of the market. This is really good. We haven't seen this kind of thick liquidity in the market pretty much all year. Maybe a couple instances this year, but pretty rare, and certainly haven't seen liquidity this thick since early October, since that sort of shakeout. But liquidity has returned in a big way here. It's a great sign, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to go up, but at least the liquidity is back in the market. And then when you look at the liquidation heat maps, I mean, it's getting thick, boys. There's a lot of people taking bets right now on both sides of the market. Liquidity's thick. It's heating up. And with all things considered with the stock market, basically we're going to get some action here, all right? We're probably going to get some action for the next couple of weeks. There's going to be big moves across the board. Whether that'll be to the top side or to the downside will be determined based off what happens at these lows or at these highs. Because right now we're sort of still in that range that we built ever since the big slide that happened earlier this week on Tuesday. So hopefully we get action today. I think we will. There's so many market participants online right now, both in the futures market or the perpetual market and in the spot market. So it's getting pretty crazy out there, boys. Some of these alts are really taking off. So obviously you still need Bitcoin to do well. But some might argue that we're getting to the part of the cycle now where some money might rotate into the altcoins. That's certainly possible. think it's a little bit too early to call, but it is interesting that a couple times this week when Bitcoin was going down, the altcoin market wasn't going down as much as it normally does. Even if you've only been around in crypto for the past couple years, you've seen that, if Bitcoin and ETH are going down, it means that the alts are going down in a big way, which wasn't really the case. And I know a couple people in the chat also saw that and pointed it out, and it was rather odd. Now, the result of that is we got some altcoins doing fantastic today. One of my favorites, as you boys know, is Near. Look at that! Look at that bad boy soar with great volume as well. Finally coming to fruition. Wasn't a slow cooker. It's starting to really cook now. So Near's doing fantastic today. Almost 40% up on the day. Obviously, still has a ways to go before we get to where some of you might have started dollar cost averaging in. But it's a great sign to see that sort of move already. It's going to be really hard to retrace that big of a move in a short period of time. So far, it looks really strong on Near. Bitcoin, we did have another test of decent fluidity. We do have stacked equal lows. Now we have been seeing that, right? The equal highs on the other side of the market. Basically, we're setting up for some big volatility that could come in. So I'll leave Bitcoin open. There is some stuff to talk about on the little lower time frame on Bitcoin. But right now, the pressing thing to look at is the volatility index. Okay, so the volatility index plan has been working quite well. Now we need to see the failure of it. So we've hit what I've been talking about for a while now, the 22-23 spot, and it's perfect because on a Friday, if there is a lot of fear on a Friday, sometimes you'll get that to subside by the time Monday comes around. Give investors the weekend to sort of chill out a bit. So it's pretty good timing. But yeah, we've hit it pretty much perfectly. So the VIX plan is still working out. Now the remainder of the VIX plan is to see the VIX trail low. If we see the volatility index trail low here, we've got good conditions to keep this rally going. Bitcoin's not out of the woods, but of course having the stock market sort of sort itself out would be lovely for backing up this Bitcoin move. 89K is still technically on the table. Right now it's the battle for the FOMO rally, and the Moon Boys are doing pretty good so far, but it's also due to the fact that the VIX has hit the pocket, right, that we've all been waiting for, and it's starting to reject from that pocket, which is a great sign. Now we still need to see it trail low, right? It's still pretty strong on the day, and if it does kick up anymore, I'm going to be pretty concerned about the overall broader markets, right? I'm talking stock market, gold, Bitcoin, every market. If we don't see a rejection from the VIX here, if we do, obviously it shows some good bear fluidity, but it's good enough. Yeah. So for the rest of the day today, we want to see the S&P start to reclaim some of this lost ground, and then by the time Monday rolls around, we want to see the S&P be green. It can be a little bit red, but if it's big red on Monday, that means that the volatility index, the structure of it, looks rather frightening, and it could mean devastation in the future. So that's why we're at such a critical juncture, because pretty much depending on what happens for the remainder of today and what happens on Monday is going to be very telling as to where we're going, probably for the rest of the quarter, to be honest, but at least for the next couple weeks. So depending on what happens today and depending what happens on Monday, we'll have our answer on where we're going for at least the next couple of weeks, and then also probably for the rest of the fucking quarter four until 2026, right? If we see the S&P rebound here, if we see the NASDAQ rebound today and on Monday, then it's going to be pretty green, blue skies for the remainder of Q4. So that's why I put in the title for today's stream that we're at a critical juncture, because that's truly how I see it right now. As far as crypto and Bitcoin is concerned, Bitcoin structure still isn't great. And so it's still kind of it needs, the S&P to sort of carry it at this point, based off all things with considering Bitcoin. We're kind of in that pocket where we need the S&P to do well, because if the S&P shows weakness and the VIX starts kicking up above 23, that's where we start to enter really murky waters across the board. I'm talking, gold, Bitcoin, everything. So this is good that we've already seen the rejection form. This is going to be a big day, because the remainder of the day, we do want to see the S&P start to at least float where it's at. Best case scenario is we start crawling back up, but it's fine if we can just stay where we're at without any big dumps. maybe it's asking a lot for the S&P, wanting the S&P to go up for the rest of the day, but really I'm content if we can just maintain where we're at. Not being too greedy, not asking for a big rally to come in at the end of Friday, but just mainly we don't want to see any more big dumps come in because that means that the VIX is going to start trailing low by the time Monday comes around. So where we're at is a pretty important spot on the S&P. So we're going to keep an eye on that today. Um, and then that should have sort of ramifications across the board for everything. And with the way that Bitcoin's sitting, with the way that gold is sitting, they're kind of in fragile areas. So they're both kind of relying on the S&P to not take a nosedive, because that would be the perfect storm for most asset classes right now. If the S&P does go down significantly, then that's going to be massive carnage across the board. So regardless of what financial instruments you like, what asset classes you like, at this point in time, it's pretty important that we see the stock market at least start to float out, and not dump significantly, because, like I said, we do have some fragility across the board when it comes to these structures. Um, of course, if shit really hits the fan, then things like gold and Bitcoin will be the first to recover. But you don't really want to see that big of a drop that comes in, right? On the it could happen if the S&P goes down. So we're gonna keep the S&P up today. All we want to see is just we want to see it float along. We don't need a big pump. What we really don't need is a big dump. So got to be content with just going sideways here on the S&P. Okay, that's ideal for the rest of the day. That's going to give runway for everything to recover nicely. That's going to allow the VIX to go low. The VIX goes low. We've hit it perfectly. The VIX plan followed perfectly again. All we need is this VIX. We just need this chart to go red, and everything is smooth sailing for the remainder of the next couple weeks, probably the rest of the financial quarter. So eyes are on the S&P, but more importantly, eyes are on the volatility index, because this is the spot that we need to see it fail. We need to see the VIX fail here. If the VIX fails here, things can recover really fast. If they don't, then we're entering a pretty critical spot. That's why there's a lot of people. There's a lot of liquidity in the spot books. This is the most liquidity, again, we've seen pretty much on Bitcoin pretty much the whole year. We're hitting really deep liquidity areas now on the spot market, and we're also seeing a lot open interest rise rapidly. So a lot of speculation on the leverage markets, a lot of liquidity on the spot markets, while we're in a huge critical juncture for the stock market. So this is a pretty crazy time right now, boys. You're going to see the orders continue to roll in today pretty thick. Because people are taking bets right now. This is assumed that we're going to see a big move on Bitcoin here soon, whether it's to the downside or the top side. And then after we see that move, then we'll have an idea of what that true supply and demand is looking like. The good news is, like I said, the icebergs are now setting up shop on the bottom side of the market. It's unfortunate because we have equal lows forming, so we're going to have a lot of invalidations on the leverage market in the same pocket. But there's not really much icebergs on the top side anymore, which is a good sign, right? So maybe we don't have to go deep diving to 89K. It looks like they're trying to maintain the FOMO rally, and the timing has lined up quite nicely with the volatility index. So just expect that today and Monday we're going to see big action. This is we haven't hit this kind of stuff since last month, and more specifically, we haven't really seen this kind of liquidity all year. So in terms of the future of the next couple of weeks, this is it, boys. We're getting to a decision point, and so it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a fight. Like I said, today you're going to see these orders continue to roll in, even when we're not even at a big, even if we're not above here or below here, where we'll see invalidations. There's still going to be a lot of speculating coming in on the books, and this is also going to be true on the S&P as well. Okay, so gold's trying to mount a recovery. I told you guys what we need to see on gold is happening so far. We're not there just yet, but it is starting to look a little bit better. If we can get a little bit higher, if we can get to like 4,050 on gold, then it's fine if we see a rejection, as long as we hold the higher low. But the structure's starting to look a little bit better, right? We've got more shorts dogpiling into the same cluster, whereas longs are getting a little bit more spread out. So this structure is already looking better. It's following the plan nicely. I see a road to recovery here for gold. When I look at a structure like this, it does look a lot better, which is a great sign. So gold structure has a little bit more work to be done, but it's certainly looking better. And when I see these kind of structures, it's almost fit my criteria of looking bullish again. It's almost there. I mean, you could even argue that it is there. I do want to see a little bit more come out of gold in terms of building the structure, but it's doing what it needs to do at this point. You want, when it comes to leverage markets and the gold futures, you want all the shorts in the same spot, right? And then you want the longs to sort of be spread out. That's what we're doing right now, and if we can maintain that, then we should see a pop. And if we can see a pop and hold it, then gold should return to upward movement, right? So it didn't look that good early this week, but it's starting to make a little bit of recovery. It's starting to form some structure here. It hasn't formed good enough structure for me to give the green light that it's just going to pump like crazy, but it's getting there. So hopefully sometime next week, particularly if the VIX trails low, then gold will be looking good as well. Again, we're not there yet, but it's starting to look better. Silver still looks good, man. Silver looked good on its own. The structure looks better than gold, but still, if gold's going to take a nosedive, silver's going to follow that market sentiment. But silver still looks good. Clusters are setting up shop at the top side, which is similar to gold. The structure on its own does look better than gold, even before gold had its nice little bounce today. But it looks pretty good. Okay, so gold and silver are both recovering nicely. We're not there yet, but we're really damn close. If this gold structure can maintain, then it's looking pretty solid. So basically, we just want to see a good rest of the day on gold and a good Monday on gold, and that should be a good enough structure. I can't see it until it happens, but that should be a good enough structure to continue the rally on gold. In fact, I've actually been pretty impressed by what's come through in the last couple days on gold since the last time I was live. So I'm rooting for gold, rooting for silver. So far, they've impressed me on rebounding so far and building the structure I need to see. I want to see that continue, and then I can just raise the green flag for gold rally to continue. But when massive volatility hits the market like this, it's a bit harder to recover. But it's done a good job so far. Again, all eyes on the S&P, more specifically, all eyes on the volatility index. The plan has been followed so far nicely. We need to see it continue. The VIX has hit the pocket, man. We just need to fucking see it continue. The dollar has dumped a bit today, but it's still fine. Dollar's still following the plan fine. Maybe we get a little bit more of a dip out of the dollar, but it's still. I'm still expecting an upward move above 102 before losing these lows. So dollar still looks good. It's just a bit of a red day, but those things happen, right? Ups and downs happen in the market. And all things considered, it's not that big of a red day on the dollar. It's it's down today, but it's not down too significantly, and it was down yesterday, not too significantly. So that's good. It's fine for things to go down, right? You just don't want to have too much volatility slam the market when they go down, because that's what really drives in the fear, and that's what we saw happen on Bitcoin. That's what we saw happen on gold. So the Mag 7's taking a beating, but there's some silver linings here, boys. The silver linings is, the S&P is down, the Mag 7's taking a beating, but the smaller market caps outside of the Mag 7 are doing good. That's indicative of a healthy market. So we're seeing market caps that are smaller, obviously pretty much everything smaller than the Mag 7 on the S&P. We're seeing them actually do pretty good, which is a great sign, right? If the Mag 7 was down and all the smaller market caps were down too, that shows, that shows some significant, it shows an unhealthy market, okay? But that's not the case this time around. So that's good. We have a lot of things going for us here on the path to recovery. We're not out of the woods, but we're really close to it. So we're at the critical juncture. This is going to determine, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record today, but I'm telling you, the way I see the markets and the way I see everything, the relationships between all the markets and their structures, we're at a critical point. We're at a critical point. Trust me, when I look at this stuff, I can tell right now, today and the next open, which is going to be Monday, is going to be very, it's going to determine a lot of the future, at least in the near future, right? A couple of weeks, maybe a financial quarter, maybe even more. So this is a big moment on the markets, and not just the stock market, precious metal markets, the currency markets, Bitcoin. This is where we're at it, boys. We're at the juncture, and so far it's going well. We're steering into the right path. The question is, can we maintain steering into that path? And only the next, the rest of today, so the next, 4 hours or so is going to tell us, going to give us a good idea, and then moving into Monday is also going to give us a good idea. But right now, things are looking a lot better. What we saw earlier today, particularly around the open, was going to be a big determining factor. Things could have gotten really bad today, and that's why I think a lot of people are speculating in right now. Deep liquidity on spot market, deep liquidity on derivative market. People were waiting for this moment. I think a lot of people can have an understanding, at least the more sophisticated market participants, that this was the big decision point. We haven't had a full-blown decision just yet, but it is leaning towards the bullish argument right now. All things considered, it's leaning more towards that. We're not completely there, but so far the initial sort of wave that came in is leaning towards things going up and to the right. So it's leaning green. It doesn't mean that we're out of the woods when it comes to could it flip red, but we will have our answer for that soon. And so that's going to give us either the green light or the red light on where these things are going to be moving, probably for the rest of November, and it could be the rest of December. So right now, regardless of which asset class you like, you should be rooting for the stock market to make a recovery. If it does, it's risk on for the rest of the alphas, and the rest of the alphas could go on a big recovery here across the board. Okay. The 10 years going down, so yield is still going down. Not much to report here. It's pretty much standard issue, right? Oil is kicking up a bit, but you guys know how I feel about oil. The plan hasn't really changed. Maybe a little something on oil, but still bearish overall on it. So maybe a little rally. I'm not too confident on my oil analysis right now because I am bearish on it, but we're sitting at the relative lows, right? We're sitting near the 50, 60 a barrel. Could we kick up to the 70, upper 60, 70 a barrel? We could, but still overall bearish on oil. Just we might see a little kick up or something. I don't know. But yeah, plan for oil hasn't changed much. Thoughts on equities dumping and crypto pumping and VIX is going up. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about, Chig. This is the spot. Equities dump hard, right? VIX kicks up right into the perfect area. Crypto is now the speculation on crypto is going hard right now. We've got open interest soaring. We've got liquidity on the spot market getting deep as fuck. We're at the spot right now, boys. We're at the spot. This is it. This is going to determine a lot. As far as Bitcoin is concerned, not as much on Bitcoin, but with Bitcoin structure being damaged, it's really paramount that the stock market carries it. If there ever was a time to pay attention in terms of, what could happen for the next couple of weeks, maybe longer, it's going to be today and it's going to be on Monday open. So the rest of today is going to be important. Monday open is going to be important. And then if we check those two boxes, if those are both green check marks, then it's smooth sailing for the foreseeable future until we get, new things that develop. But this is, so far, it's going well. Gold, like I said, gold structure is recovering. It's looking better. Silver structure has already looked good. You guys know that. So, like I said earlier, silver still, silver looked a lot better than gold. Still does, in my opinion, right now, as far as structure is concerned. And then Bitcoin's in a tricky spot. Bitcoin's in a tricky spot because you have a couple things at play, right? In the past couple of years, we've seen these equal lows, equal highs play out pretty consistently. Even in the last month, right? These equal highs never got swept before we went low. Now the argument is, will the equal lows that we just formed not get swept before we go high? And we're going to get more answers on where Bitcoin's going when we start to break out of these local structures so we can see the true supply and demand. Once we can see the true supply and demand, whether that's tagging to the top side or tagging to the bottom side, then we can have a better idea of where this bad boy's going. Do we have to go to 89 before we go get another all-time high? That kind of stuff will be determined depending on if we see an imbalance of supply and demand, or if we don't see an imbalance. If we don't see an imbalance of supply and demand after we take out the highs, that's really fucking strong. So basically, if we go for the top side, if we flush out the short sellers, which are all dogpiled up here at the top, at the top side right here, then, and we can hold it, so we take out the short sellers, and then we can hold it instead of it just dumping right after that, that's going to be a really strong sign. Now, if we do see a nasty rejection after taking out the short sellers, then that means that we're likely going to have to go to 89K on Bitcoin, 90K on Bitcoin before we're going to go higher. And that doesn't mean we're going to hold 89K for sure. We still have to see how it plays out. I'm personally leaning more into the camp that we will hold it, but who knows? Anything can happen on the market. So if this happens, then it's more likely we're going to see this before we get a new all-time high on Biddy. And if this doesn't hold, then we could be heading into a sort of a bearish winter. Why 89K? Because it's the structure that was formed earlier this year before we had the FOMO rally. Okay? So we never had any proper tests of the lows. After we lifted off in April, we kind of just had a huge FOMO rally, right? And the last remaining structure of that FOMO rally is under test right now. This is the last remaining test of the FOMO rally. If this holds, then the FOMO rally continues. If not, then we get grounded back into reality, and then we test the big overall structure. Basically, this is like the rally that Bitcoin's been building for the last 3 or 4 years goes under gets tested if we see 89-90K. That's where the big test is, because that's where liquidity got flushed out earlier, right? Bitcoin goes over 100K. A bunch of people are like, holy shit, Bitcoin's over 100K, time to leverage long, time to buy Bitcoin, all that jazz. And then we get the structure that forms, right, where all the invalidations are dogpiled in at the same spot, right? And the same type of market participant who's going to FOMO in when Bitcoin's above 100K could also be the same type of market participant who's going to panic sell when volatility hits the market and we dip under 90K again. So this is where liquidity was, right? This is where we saw volatility. This is where we saw conviction on liquidity. So you can argue this whole area was accumulation. Now, where is accumulation likely defended? Accumulation is likely defended where the fills started to happen, where the bids started to get filled. And that would be around 89K. Now, could we do have some room to breathe here, right? We could go a little bit diving into it, but we don't want to hang around here. So we don't want to see something like this where we're just kind of hanging around and making a structure. That's no bueno. But there's some room to breathe, right? We could dip down to 85 or something, and that would be fine. It's just not ideal because you want to see really nice fluidity coming out of the market when things are put to the ultimate test. Now, the test we're seeing right now is the FOMO rally test. It's the same thing, right? Bitcoin gets a new all-time high ever since we hit 100K. People dogpile in here as well to sell. Now the question is, when that happened, why didn't this go lower? So same scenario, right? A bunch of people equal lows in the same area. Bunch of people equal lows in the same area. We tagged them out. In this scenario, we tagged them out and we saw some big action. In this scenario, we tagged them out. We didn't really see some big action. So now the accumulation that happened here is where it was defended so far. And this is supporting pretty much the whole, this is where the accumulation would be for the FOMO boys. I remember Urban saying this is it in September of 2024 when Bitcoin was around 54K. Bitcoin pumped back then against many bears. Yeah, this is a pretty similar spot. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for pointing that out, Day9. If you guys remember this, when we were here, I was saying the exact same thing that I'm saying right now. And it's the same test of that accumulation, right? So people dogpile in on Bitcoin when it gets back above, when it makes a new all-time high that it hadn't made in years. Okay? And then unknown demand slams the market here. We reverse back in, and then where does that get tested? And where does it hold? Where the accumulation took place. So it's this same thing is happening here as well, and here on a more FOMO-based rally. So yeah, we're at a critical spot right now, boys. This could lead to something big, or it could lead to a deep sea dive, and that's why what's going to happen today in real time on the markets with the price action is going to form the type of structures that will have long-term ramifications on where the price is going to be going in the future. If we grab 106K, how can you... So the easiest way to tell is the price action, right? But there's other ways to see. Like you can look at the order books too and look at the spot side order books. I'm not talking about the perpetual side order books. That doesn't matter too much to me. It matters a little bit, right? It matters a little bit to look at the perpetual order books, but not as much as the spot books. Because the perpetual order books can have an effect on short-term price movement, but in terms of like the overall greater trend, that's going to be determined by the true supply and demand of people actually buying and selling Bitcoin, and not people just taking bets on the future of where the Bitcoin price is going to be. So yes, looking at both is fine. You can look at the perpetual order books just like you can look at the spot order books. You can look at both, but knowing which one has more weight to it is going to be the spot market by a wide margin. It's the same thing as looking at any technical tool that you could look at, right? Certain things are fine to look at. Like if you wanted to look at indicators, fine, look at indicators, but you need to know how much weight to give it. The price action is what needs the most amount of weight when looking at something from a technical perspective, and then when looking at things from an order book perspective, the spot market needs the most weight. So it's fine to look at certain things, but the issue is most people don't know how much weight to give something. And so they'll look at 50 different metrics and they'll pick out certain metrics that they like that'll support their bias. And they'll give that a ton of weight. But really, the only thing that matters is what the price action's doing, right? That's paramount. Anything else besides that is fucking... Everybody's got an opinion on X, Y, Z, A, B, C, whatever. The price doesn't have an opinion. The price doesn't lie. Always rely on the price because it's the truth and it doesn't lag. So that's number one. And then if you wanted to look at order books, I would say the spot one has way more weight to it than the perpetual ones, okay? So where we get to see these imbalances of supply and demand is where there's a lot of people that have conviction on liquidity. So a lot of people are pressing the green button at the same time. A lot of people are pressing the red button at the same time. So for instance here, right? In this scenario where we saw Bitcoin make that new all-time high and dip under 100K, you know that this is a critical spot. Why? Because the price bounced off of it twice. So people are saying, okay, 100K is huge support. Don't worry, Bitcoin's not going under 100K. Never below 100K again, right? And then it did go under 100K. Now the question you have to ask yourself when it does that is, why didn't it go lower? Based off how much movement we had in the past, right? Plenty of movement. Why was this so insignificant? Now we're testing it. We're testing that accumulation. Now it's been a sloppy fight so far. The bears have definitely put in a lot. This is the hold right now is not clean, meaning we've had multiple tests of these lows at the local structure. So basically all the guys that have invalidations here are now sharing the same invalidations with all the longs that have been opened up in the last week. That's dangerous. It doesn't mean we have to take it out, but it's something that's worth noting. Now, if this was 5-6 years ago, I would be really bearish right now. But I have to acknowledge the fact that the dynamics of the market and the price action has changed. The reason why it's changed, we can argue until the cows come home, but it has. And you guys know I've gone into theory crafting exactly why that's the case. It's not really useful to know why the dynamics have changed more so than adapting to the dynamics that they've changed, right? So we've got fragile structure on the bottom. The question is, do we have to take out that structure before we go higher? We've got, just like we had fragile structure on the top, we didn't take it out before we went lower. So as far as this new meta of equal highs and equal lows holding, it's become more and more prominent over the last years. We saw it start to take form in late 2023, and then 2024 it was starting to get more and more strong, and now in 2025 it's becoming you can't ignore it. These equal highs, equal lows are actually holding. So support and resistance traders are in max euphoria. Supply and demand traders are fucking super happy with the price action lately. But don't mistake this. This is still fragile, but the reason why I'm more optimistic, even in the face of a fragile local market structure, is because of what the stock market's doing. We're certainly not out of the woods, though, on Bitcoin. But as far as stonks and gold, it's looking better. And these other bigger market caps, you want to see them do well because you're going to have a better shot of doing well on the smaller market caps, right? If the biggest market caps are doing well, then people are more likely to go risk on and look at deeper into the alpha side of things because there's a little bit more ROI. The deeper you go into the alpha, the smaller the market cap you go into. Is that Tensor Charts? Yeah, this is Tensor Charts. Biddy against dollar on Nance spot. But you can look at aggregate order books too. Like CoinGlass has, the aggregate order books for more than just Nance. I just have always relied on this over the years, and I'm very comfortable using it. Maybe I should adapt and look at aggregate books, but this has always treated me pretty well, and it still does. If it starts to become less effective, then maybe I'll change up the way I approach it. But so far, it's okay. But here's the thing, right? If I'm not online, and this might happen over the weekend, if I'm not online, where should you pay attention to? At 105. So pretty much squeezing out the rest of the short sellers. Here is going to be a big decision point. We know that people are going to flood into buys. We're going to get a bunch of green flood in that's going to come in. The question is, will it be significant? So, if we see this, we're back in business on Bitcoin. If we see this, it's looking like we might need to take out the fragile structure on the bottom side. Okay. So that's going to be a big area where we're going to see a battle take place. We're already seeing a lot of battles taking place today because of where the stock market's at, right? It's at a critical juncture. So the liquidity is deep, man. It's deep. This is the deepest I've seen it pretty much this year. There's been a couple other instances this year that we've seen spot liquidity this deep, but liquidity has returned. And as far as open interest and people speculating with leverage, that's heating up big time today. And it was heating up yesterday too, but it's really cooking today. So we're gonna continue to see these orders flow in, even in right now we're smack dab in the middle of the fucking relative range, right? From when we look at it like this, we're pretty much at the middle of where liquidity is at the highs and where liquidity is at the low. We're a little bit above the middle, but we're pretty much in the middle of the range, right? So why is there so much fucking these kind of moments you're not going to see that many orders flood in normally. But right now there's a good amount of orders flowing in a spot where you wouldn't expect it to be. So that's showing that, people are taking bets right now. A lot of people are taking bets. We're at a big moment, and it's another good sign to see that the alt market's doing good, because it's showing that people are leaning into the alpha side of the market a little bit even harder. And it's good to see that look at some of these alts, boys. The alts that had good volume are fucking soaring right now. Render's up 50%, Near is up 33%. Zcash is obviously it's been up. So Zcash is up 32%, but it's been up the past month or so. We have Polkadot up 20 something percent. Things are cooking right now on the altcoin markets. But don't be mistaken. If Bitcoin does go for the deep sea diving and we go to 89 and we get a big downside volatility, the liquidity provision on the altcoin markets, the bids will be a little bit more hesitant. So we could see a big correction if that happens on the alt still. Zcash is looking like a short. People have been trying to short the fuck out of Zcash, man. Look at these fucking funding rates. Zcash funding rates on OKX is 0.33 negative. Bybit 0.23 negative. Nance obviously 0.13. That's crazy funding. You don't see that funding every day. And Zcash, people are trying to short this thing, but it is relentless. Zcash is almost in the top 10 of coins. I think it is in the top 10 if you're just not including USDT or USDC. So if you're not including the stables, I think Zcash is now in the top 10. It's been a fucking huge rise. Okay, this thing is cooking. And I told you guys when we were going up, like I even told you here, the holders on Zcash they have a lot of resolve. They're not going to be quick to sell. These guys have been sitting on Zcash for years, and they've been waiting for this moment. They're not going to be as quick to hop out of their positions. If you want to short this bad boy, what do you need? You need actual supply to hit the markets. Okay? Now, we could see nothing goes straight up forever, but I'm not getting in front of this bull train and trying to short it right now. If I even consider shorting this thing, I gotta wait till I see big action to the downside. I gotta see big volatility come in, because the volume is still kicking up, boys. Every time we get a new high, we just got that huge new high that came in, right? And volume is still there. If the volume wasn't there, that would be a concern, but we're still seeing big volume coming in on Zcash. Look at this fucking monthly candle, boys. Look at these past 2 monthly candles. We're only 7 days into November, and look at that shit, bro. It's a fucking giant green dildo, man. I'm not saying it can't go down, but you gotta wait a little. Imagine if it was like this. Are you gonna long this thing? Because that's what you're doing when you're trying to short it. Are you gonna long this when it's like that? Give it some time, man. You don't want to try and catch the absolute top. If you really want to short this thing, let the actual market show you that it's a time to short it, right? This thing's heating up. It's heating up. Could it dip? It could, but I'm not going to be the one to try and catch the top on this bad boy, particularly when you're paying the fucking funding that you would be paying on this thing. Negative 0.33% funding is fucking unheard of. You're going to be paying out the ass just for funding to try and catch the absolute top. Listen, if you want to grab a short right now and you think it's going to dump, more power to you. You do what you want. It's your own money. I'm just saying, be careful, man. This thing is fucking heating. Okay, and this is not the only thing. Look at Near now. Look at our boy Near. It's starting to cook, boys. I told you that volume that came in, it's a slow cooker, But look at the volume that we saw on the dump, and then now look at the fluidity on the pump. Look at that. Bang, bang, baby. Kisses it with good fluidity, accumulation holds, spike in volume. That's what we love to see. And look at all these equal highs. Look at all these equal highs just ready for the taking. Now, of course, we still need the stock market to float here. We still need Bitcoin to recover. But some of these alts are looking fucking tempting, man. Ethereum is in the same boat as Bitcoin. The structure is a little bit better than Bitcoin because it's not as sloppy, but it still is heavily reliant on the stock market here. You sound so excited. Look at the fucking alt market, dude. Look at the alt market right now. How long have the boys been waiting for the alts to fucking do this? It's been years of alts just taking beating after beating after beating, and now the alts are showing some fucking life. XRP and Solana aren't really moving much, but the lower market cap alts are actually they're moving. They're schmoving. You long like 15 alts a day before the pump. Did you and one of the reasons you probably even considered doing that, Power, is because what we talked about on Wednesday, right? When Bitcoin and ETH were down, the alts were not down as much as you would expect. In fact, some of them were up. That was pretty fucking abnormal. A lot of people in the chat pointed that out, right? It was weird to see that, because that's the last couple years we've not been seeing that on the altcoin market. But just keep in mind, guys, if the S&P doesn't see a float here, if we don't recover on the S&P, which we're doing nicely, if we see that VIX go down, we got a green light across the board for a lot of alphas. Bitcoin still has a ways to go here. We still need to see some things out of Bitcoin, right? I'm not fully convinced on Bitcoin just yet. Gold's looking better. Silver looks good. Ethereum, looks pretty good. But we're not there yet, but this is already a good sign. This is a sign where you could see a recovery. But don't get too excited, right? Because we're not there yet. I know I sound really excited, and the main reason is because of this chart right here. This chart is the reason why I'm excited. Because it's showing I was very concerned that we could see a mega fucking crash across the board. But this so far looks pretty good. We're not there yet, but it's looking good so far. We're still at the critical juncture. We haven't left the critical juncture yet. We could still get fucked. But it's looking better than what it did. Don't take my excitement and mistake it, because we're not. Anything could happen in these fucking markets, and we're not there yet. But this was one of the first big moments to see what kind of action we were going to see. Honestly, I'd want the S&P to do even better today, but I'm not. I don't want to get too greedy here. So don't just bet the house 100x leverage FOMO buy in. Just because I'm excited. We still need to stick to our principles. We're not there yet, but this is already a good sign. That's a great question, Kafa. That's a great question. I don't know the exact answer to it, but it is interesting, isn't it? It's the same thing that we saw earlier this week, where these smaller market caps are showing life, and it's the exact same thing happening in the stock market. So what are we seeing on the stock market? We're seeing Mag 7 down, right? Whoops. We're seeing Tesla down. Not crazy, but Apple down, Amazon down, Google down, Nvidia down, right? Mag 7 down. But we're seeing things like Walmart, that's up. We're seeing things like McDonald's, that's up. American Airlines, CVS, Chewy, T-Mobile. Smaller market caps outside the Mag 7 that are floating life right now, even with the Mag 7 taking a beating. That shows good health. Are we there yet? No, we're not. We're not out of the woods yet. But it could be a lot worse today, I'll tell you that much. It could have been really bad today. It still can be, right? But the fact that it didn't happen today is a good sign. The time Monday rolls around, if we get a big crash, we're going deep sea diving, man. But that could have happened today. Legitimately, guys, that could have happened today. We could have been deep in the red right now. The fact that hasn't happened is why I'm excited, because I was very worried about that being a possibility today. That we were going to, on open, we were going to wake up and just see that we're getting absolutely fucked. Now, again, that could happen on Monday. The fact that it hasn't happened is why I'm excited, because it gives me a lot of relief that at least we've survived today. At least we survived the tag to 22 to 23. Because don't be mistaken here, boys. We're not there yet, and today could have been really bad. It could have. I mean, we could see Bitcoin at 90K today if the S&P didn't hold. If the S&P went deep sea diving and we saw it even deeper, we could be a lot lower right now. And I'm talking about on gold, I'm talking about on Bitcoin, I'm talking silver, the stock market, all of it could have been in the shitter today. But, we're not there yet. Looks like the biggest bull liquidation is coming. Yeah, so we can still get that test of 90K. 89 to 90K is still on the table. Okay? That's still on the table. The reason why I'm a little bit excited is because I thought that could have happened today, and it didn't. We've got plenty of. The Bitcoin structure is still fragile. It's still fragile. So yeah, I mean, it's an important day, guys. Today and Monday is going to be huge for for pretty much every asset class. If VIX follows the plan like it did here, then we're good. If this thing kicks up above again on Monday, there's a chance we're going to kick up above 30. We could get all the way to 50, and things are going to be. The S&P could be down 2+%. That's the kind of critical juncture we're at. Today, the S&P could have been down 2 to 3%. Monday, it could be down 2 to 3%. If we can survive today, which we've done so far, knock on wood, if we can survive Monday, then we look a way better. But we're at a critical juncture where we could see that deep sea dive across the board. We could see everything take a massive fucking hit. The fact that it hasn't happened so far is the reason why I'm excited. But don't get it mistaken. Just because I'm excited does not mean that we're guaranteed to go up. I'm just excited because I thought it could have been doomed today. Let's not pretend there is no upside liquidity. Yeah, there's plenty of short sellers too. I mean, if you got to look at the funding, right? Bitcoin funding is floating pretty regular. ETH funding is floating pretty regular, but the altcoin funding is deep negative for a lot of things. Right? SUI's negative, ADA is negative. Link is floating pretty normal. Near is big time negative too. Same thing with the Phil coin that you guys keep talking about. Now, what I'm thinking about here is it not interesting that a lot of the coins that did really well in the 2018 altcoin rallies are the ones that are leading the way this time? So let's look at the past two altcoin rallies. We got the 2018 one, and then we have the one after COVID, right? Who remembers the 2018 one? What was one of the first altcoins to lead the way in the 2018 rally? What was one of the altcoins that was the last one to pump in the COVID rally? Litecoin. Bang on. Brainy number one. That's correct. XRP. Yeah, XRP was one of the ones in the middle. Actually, XRP was one of the ones in the front, yeah. Not the first one, but XRP was one of the front runners in 2018 for sure. But Litecoin, Litecoin went from like $1 to $100 overnight in the 2018 rallies. So here's the thing: we are by no means out of the woods just yet. If this party's really going to get started, we're still setting up for the party. It hasn't even really started yet. So there's no reason to just jump in. Litecoin went from like $3 to $100 like overnight. It seemed like it was overnight. If you remember back in it was in 2017, the end of 2017, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyways, there's still time. We don't need to jump the gun here. If you guys remember, altcoin rallies usually last a couple months. The XRP rally didn't happen until early, I think January 2018, Choco. That was like, what, 8 years ago? It's hard to remember, but we don't need to jump the gun because we're still at the critical juncture. Okay? But if this thing does float, if this thing does survive, then, people are looking to go risk on. I mean, you can see it in the fucking books, man. You can see it in the fucking books. The liquidity is getting deep. It's getting deep liquidity, boys. Leverage is kicking up. Everything's kicking up hard. Oh yeah. The XRP against Bitcoin did really good in early 2017. You're right about that. I mean, when XRP went from like 20 cents to like $3 was in against dollar in 2018. I think January, February. So Fartcoin has a chance. Fuck Fartcoin, dude. I mean, more power to the Fartcoin holders. I hope it does well, but fuck that, dude. The meme coins have had their time in the sun. Everything's gonna go up, so the Fartcoin boys can come along for the ride too, right? The meme coin boys can come along for the ride. Sure, that's fine. But like, that's not what I'm looking at right now. Have you guys seen liquidity this deep? We've seen it only a couple times this year that we've seen liquidity this deep. There's big action right now. Big action. Okay. So Ethereum, particularly Ethereum against Bitcoin, did hold where it needed to. It got a little messy. I'm not 100% happy with where it held, but it did hold. Okay, that's a good sign. Ethereum, we still could get 2,900. If we get one last wave to wipe everyone out on Bitcoin ETH, we're looking at 89K Bitcoin, 2,900 ETH. Those are still both on the table. They don't have to happen, though. It really depends on what the stonks want to do here. I'm looking at this is called Tensor Charts, tensorcharts.com. It's in the or CoinGlass too. Yeah, either one works. They're both in the Discord under the resources section that you can check out, or just type it in tensorcharts.com, coinglass.com. But icebergs have evaporated on top side on Bitcoin, stacking up on the bottom side now. Liquidity is deep on both sides of the market, so it's not just the bull side of the market. We got liquidity deepening on the ask side of the market. What do you mean when you see deep liquidity? The bid-ask spread is tight. The bid-ask spread is tight. If it was, people are willing to provide liquidity, deep liquidity at any level you want to buy or sell Bitcoin at right now, deeper than before. So that means market making bots, liquidity provision is back on board in a big way. If you want to buy a lot of Bitcoin, you want to sell a lot of Bitcoin, where we're at currently, there is enough liquidity. It's deep liquidity. So in these kind of moments, people are willing to provide that liquidity. Whereas in the last couple of weeks, it was not the case. We actually saw pretty light liquidity, pretty thin liquidity. This looks like the 107K lows when they gave an October 10th round two, where everything goes 70%, negative 70%, 30 minutes. Yeah, it's possible, man. Guys, the only reason I'm excited today is because it's not necessarily that it's because we're going up, it's because we didn't go down in a big way just yet. We still could see that on Monday. We still could see that on Monday. Okay? So the main reason I'm excited is not because the prices went up, it's because the prices aren't down negative 30% right now, which could have happened. And I'm not just talking about Bitcoin. I'm not just talking about crypto. I'm talking about not negative 30 on the S&P and gold, but like deep diving on gold in the S&P. I mean, the S&P could have been down 2-3% today. Gold could have been down 2-3% today. Maybe more. But that's not what happened so far. That's why I sound excited. I'm not necessarily excited because I'm saying, "Oh, it's guaranteed to go up." I'm excited because I thought we could be in some deep murky water right now. It could have gotten real bad. That's why I'm excited. But we're not out of the murky waters just yet. We still need Monday. Why do you think so? Because the volatility index. We need to see a rejection between 22 to 23, and that's what we saw so far. If we didn't see if this thing kicked up higher, then this gets crushed, and we could make a high higher than this high, and then we're kicked above 50 again in such quick succession. That shows an extremely unhealthy economy, something unprecedented that we haven't seen in decades, and that could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. This was already done, right? This was already done. If you return to it, that means there's a chance you can do something higher than this, which would kick us above 50. I'm telling you, this chart, the volatility index for the S&P, is the guiding light for every chart. It's the guiding light for every chart. If you can figure out what this is going to do, you can pretty much figure out what the general trend is for all the other charts. which is why I talk about it every stream at the beginning of every stream. This worked out fine and dandy, right? Now we need this to work out. Just look at the volumes between them. It's mainly the S&P, but this is like doing technical analysis and price action stuff on the S&P is really difficult. But doing it on the VIX like I've always been able to use the VIX, use technicals on the VIX and the price action through that to be able to help me determine the other things. Maybe some people in this chat are better than me at analyzing indices from a technical perspective. I've always struggled with that more than I've struggled with being able to analyze the VIX. So believe it or not, this chart has, even though it's the volatility index for the U.S. stock market, it has huge implications on what Bitcoin's going to do, on what the altcoins are going to do. If you want evidence for that, look at today. Everybody was worried that we were going to crash hard on Bitcoin. Everybody was worried that the alts were going to crash hard, right? And that worry was founded in good logic. And it still could happen. It still could happen. I'm telling you right now, if you want your altcoins to do well, if you want Bitcoin to do well, if you want gold to do well, you better be rooting for the fucking S&P 500 right now. So I'm going to keep the S&P 500 up on the low time frame here. We're going to watch the action, but we need this number to go up and to the right. So what should Bitcoin do to be out of the danger zone? So the first thing we need to see on Bitcoin is if we can get back above 105K, we need to see what the imbalance of supply and demand is going to look like. So let me make this really simple. You can see on the chart, I'm going to show it to you in the data, but let me show it to you on the chart because the chart's the most important. You can see that like the highs are all sort of in the same pocket here, right? So Bitcoin goes deep sea diving under 100K. Let's start there. Bitcoin goes under 100K. Okay, now you got everyone and their grandma looking to short Bitcoin because it's under 100K. Okay, so they short Bitcoin under 100K and then we get this bounce back. So if they used high leverage and let's say they shorted the bottom, right? Just when it got under 100K, then a lot of them got invalidated on this spike back up. The ones that didn't get invalidated are likely resting above these highs. And the people that are just now joining the short party in the last couple days are likely above these highs as well. Okay, so that's seeing it from the price chart. Most likely, a lot of the short sellers are dogpiled up here because if they had invalidations here or here or here, they got invalidated on the move up. Okay, so now we look at the data. Let's have a look at this is a rough estimate, by the way. It's not perfect data. So now we want to see, okay, on this chart, where the brightest yellow. Where's the brightest yellow? It's in this pocket up here, right? A big cluster of bright yellow. In fact, let's look at it on the 3-day. That makes it a little bit more clear. Whoops. So the bright yellow is up here at 105K. That's the same thing right here. So this is where everybody who shorted Bitcoin when it went under 100K are dogpiled into the same spot. The ones that are still remaining are in the same spot. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that if we get back here, we will see a flood of market buys on the leverage market. So the leverage market will flood with market buys. Why? Because when a short gets stopped out, when somebody closes a short sell, it operates as a market buy. If you have everybody closing short sells at the same fucking time, you get a flood of market buys. Now, that happening on the leverage markets, those are not affecting the true supply and demand of the spot market. So the actual buying and selling of Bitcoin outside the leverage markets. When you leverage long Bitcoin, you're not buying Bitcoin. You're speculating on where the price will be of Bitcoin in the future. Okay? So the leverage markets prop up the spot market. Okay? Liquidity provision retreats. Then we see what really happens here. This is going to tell us after the leverage gets flushed out. Are we going to see this? Which would be, next stop would be targeting the other side. Or are we going to see something like this? Or are we going to see something like this? These two scenarios where we just go straight up or we float it, those are both bullish. If we see this, then we go to the other side. When we are in the middle of a range, so see how we're kind of bouncing between this, right? That kind of stuff isn't going to show us the true supply and demand. It's not going to show us what the true supply and demand is. When we break out of those relative ranges, that's where we get to see. That's where the price shows us the truth. So we fail this in a big way above 105, we could go all the way down to 89K. Then we must hold 89. We could go all the way down there. If we don't, then we take the next step. Where's the next step? Well, the last time it happened again, right here. All the short sellers in the same spot. So then we look above here and we watch it again. One step at a time. And then if that works, then we go again above here and we look at it again. If that works, then the last stop on the train for the top side is where previous liquidity got cleared out in a big way, which is 118. So where are the short sellers all dogpiled in at the same spot, and what happens after they get flushed if they get flushed? Where are the long traders all dogpiled in the same spot, and what happens after they get flushed if they get flushed? Those areas are going to fucking tell you where the trend is going. Any market that has a big leveraged market, this is how you can read it. So gold has a pretty big leverage market. The currency markets, the commodity markets, and the crypto markets all have big leverage markets. The beauty of that is that technical analysis and reading price action has some validity to it. If you're looking at a common stock, it's real hard to use technical analysis on it. In fact, that's why technical analysis gets such a bad name by investors and stock people, equity people, because it's not that effective in the equity market. That's why instead of looking at this chart and trying to use price action to determine where it's going to go next, I use the volatility index. And the crazy thing about Bitcoin and how much it moves, we could be above 105 today. We could be below 99 today. This shit fucking moves, man. That's what I'm saying. It's a big day. Right now, we don't want to ask for too much. We want to just be able to maintain it. We want to see the S&P float back up, regain some of that ground that it lost. We don't need to ask for a lot here. What we need is just not a big dump to come in. If we can maintain it and the S&P can continue to crawl back up, we're going to see risk on the alphas, as deep as the alpha goes, because it's a huge decision point. Quarter four is normally a pretty good quarter, right? Unless we're at the 4-year cycle, which we technically are, but no. I'm not. The reason, guys, don't get this mistaken. The reason why I'm excited is because I thought today we could see fucking massive crashes across the board. That was possible today. I'm not excited that, we've gone up a bit. I'm more so excited because today could have been it could have been a massacre. And the same thing will be true on Monday. Right? That still is on the table. It's still possible. Incoming zero action today and Monday. That's what you want at this point. Because we're in the danger zone, right? We're in the danger zone right now. We're at the critical juncture. And so far we've managed to tiptoe around the danger zone and survive it so far. That doesn't mean we've survived it though. That doesn't mean we've survived it. You want to see 89K? Yeah, I mean 89K is still possible. It's still possible. Same thing with Ethereum. 2900 is still possible. Don't be mistaken here. Anything can fucking happen in these markets. I just want everyone to understand where we're at right now, because we are at a critical juncture. These things happen every once in a while, but this is a big one. There's going to be a lot of people speculating today. I mean, it's a Friday and there's a decent amount of people here. Normally, that's not the case, and it's honestly, I think the more sophisticated market participants understand the gravity of the situation right now. At least I'd like to believe that, and when I look at the books, I can sort of see that. We're by no means are we out of the woods. I'm just happy that we survived so far. Doesn't mean we will, but it's a good start. And you can see where the deep liquidity is on the bottom side of the market too, just so you can see both sides. They're here for the marbles coin. The price action day is going to be a little bit more random though, because we're floating in the middle of the relative range, right? We're kind of near the middle of where the highs and lows are, so that the action that we're going to see on Bitcoin on the 1 minute is going to be a bit more random. But I can show you the structure and show you where to look, like I did the last couple streams, of where the structure breaks, where it flips, that kind of stuff. It's just it's going to be a little bit more random, so I'm not going to be as accurate as say I was earlier this week. So you're holding this right now, which is important. If we can get a low lower than this low, then you look for this one next for the bear structure. If we pop the top here, it should be in a big way because you got shorts flooding in. So let's look at the 12-hour liquidity map. The longer we stay here, the more shorts will dogpile in. It doesn't look like many people want to take a short where we're at currently, though. So maybe not as big of a flood as I was thinking. We'll see, though. A flood can happen in two ways, right? It can be invalidations or it could be FOMO. There's not a huge difference in the models. I am using Model 3, though, Finn. I don't understand every single complexity when it comes to the difference between the models. I'll be 100% honest with you there. But I just use the latest model that CoinGlass has. Maybe you can do a deep dive into it and explain the huge differences between all of them. But I'm just using the latest model. Come on now. Come on now. Also, if Bitcoin does manage to pull itself out of this rut, the higher it goes, the more that the argument to be made is that the 4-year cycle's done and Saylor was right. I'm not a believer in that just yet. I think we got a long ways to go before I'm going to believe that the 4-year cycle is not going to happen. In fact, MicroStrategy, the technicals on it look pretty fucking scary right now, but it did survive it, right? That's a great start. So fleshed out the lows and survived it. I would have liked a little bit deeper, right? That way we can just be certain that the options market is completely guttered on MicroStrategy, but it's pretty good so far. It's not terrible. It's really hard to tell, to be honest. As you can see from this, I wanted a little bit deeper, but it's still fine. In fact, it's actually pretty impressive that it didn't fucking do this. So MicroStrategy rebounded in a pretty important spot. A little bit lower, and I could have been even more confident in it, but so far so good. The FOMO boys are still fighting for this hard, boys. The FOMO boys, the Moon boys are still putting up a hell of a fight right now. Polkadot all-time highs, dude. Polkadot's got a long way to go, man. Polkadot's got a long way to go. It's off to a good start, man. What did Saylor say about the 4-year? Saylor was basically saying we're not going to have a bear market again. Pretty much, we're not. The 4-year cycle is not going to happen again. Today is actually a huge day for Michael Saylor. I don't think he's a big guy when it comes to technical analysis and price action, that kind of stuff. So he might not realize how big of a day it is, but it's actually pretty fucking major for Sailor, whether he knows it or not, for his for the price of his for MicroStrategy, for strategy. That was a critical spot. It could have been really bad. Sailor's popping champagne, but it could still be too early to call. We're not out of the fucking woods. It's still way too early to call it. The alt market seems to believe that it's time, but I don't know yet. If it is time, there'll be plenty of, alt season lasts for a couple months. So let's stay to our principles here. This could be a big fucking trap, right? But so far it looks pretty good. The spot market is following the move. Maybe not as much as I would like to see. I'd like to see the spot market follow a little bit harder. So yeah, I mean, for the bears in the chat, you could be right. This could be a big, massive fucking trap. But only the price will tell us the truth. The price will not lie to us. It can't lie. Here we go. We're getting some action. Biddy's soaring. Biddy's going for it. S&P is crawling back up, boys. This is the battle. Today, the battle that we're going to see today, over the weekend and on Monday, this is the battle, man. It's going to be a bloody battle, but, it's going to be a fight. And right now, the Bulls are hitting them with the old 1-2. Question is, will it be a knockout? I mean, look at the depth of this liquidity, man. It is heating up, boys. It is getting intense. I mean, just watch these orders flow in. It's a battle out here. The big bear claw is gonna put up a fight, man. It's odd too, because normally we don't get this kind of a big decision point on a Friday. Every once in a while, but this is a big decision point. Yeah, he said that there wouldn't be a bear market anymore. I don't know if he's right about that. I don't just take what somebody says, and I need to see it in the fucking price. Until I see it in the price, I'm not a believer of it. Because people can pick and choose what they want to say. They can have every single opinion. There's people who have different opinions on a bear market. There's people who have different opinions on a bull market. All I know is that the price has never lied to me. If there's one truth in the market, it is the fucking price. So, I mean, like I said, today is a big day to pay attention. Hopefully, over the weekend, we don't see any big, massive dumps. But this S&P is crawling back up, man, and that's exactly what we want to see. VIX is sliding down. That's exactly what we want to see. This go down, this go up, and we're in for smoother, calmer waters, smoother sailing. But don't get it twisted, boys. We're not out of the murky water yet. We're right in the thick of it, to be honest. And we're floating right now. We're floating fine. It doesn't mean that we will. All right, so we failed this, then looking for the retest here, which just happened on the local, but then you want to see it a little bit on the higher. And then this, if we go make the new low. Bull side is pretty straightforward, right? We haven't had the proper test here, so this can hold. We have this down here as well. And we have the hold here, which is already done. So this isn't really a spot anymore. It's really it's in the hands of the stock market right now. It's in the hands of the stock market. Some people are only hard assets like precious metals. Some people are hard assets plus digital assets. And they just totally don't care about the stock market. Right now, you should. Why is Zcash just going up? I said this weeks ago. Zcash holders are not they are hodlers, man. They are not the type to sell to take profit. Zcash holders are big believers in their coin. Big believers in their coin, man. It's a cult community. Zcash, they're not gonna stop here, man. Zcash people are fucking nuts. They're insane in the head. They're gonna hold it. Now, once we see that thing turn around, and once we see them that the price tell us otherwise, then we can change our opinion, right? Until then, I'm believing in the resolve of the Zcash fucking army. It will eventually dump, though. Don't get it wrong. Everything eventually, will find a top, and it'll dump a bit. That's when we can start to reevaluate everything. But until then, I'm not going to be the one to say that this is the top for Zcash. I don't care about grabbing the highest high. I'll take the lower high, man. I'll take the lower high. If you tried to short Zcash on the way up, imagine how many times you got absolutely dumpstered. Imagine trying to short this thing on the way up. Every single time they just ran right through you. The bull stampede. Now we're getting a little parabolic here, so we could see a dump come in, but I don't care about catching this. I want to catch this. Riding off fuck. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are trying to do it, dude. You can see it in the fucking funding. People are trying to bet against Zcash here, and they're getting fucking ran over, dude. They're getting ran over. Look at the funding on this shit. How often do you see negative 0.3% funding? It's crazy. It's insane, dude. People are not happy with this rally on Zcash. People hate this rally on Zcash. And that's why it's going to keep going, probably. Max Payne. If you want to find a community that's cult-like, you got Bitcoin, right? No doubt there. Bitcoin is definitely a cult to some degree. Zcash is not far from that. In fact, these guys might be even more insane than the Bitcoin guys. These guys have, like, fucking... Not only do they have tinfoil hats, they have tinfoil hats with, like, fucking medals on them, dude. Like, they've got extravagant fucking tinfoil hats. These guys are certified insane. And that's what you need to maintain a rally. Trust me, when I was active on crypto Twitter back in like 2017, 2018, the guys that were supporters of Zcash were not only some of the most sophisticated market participants, they were also some of the most batshit insane market participants. They've watched every other coin pump while their coin doesn't move, and they've still held on to it. And now you got fucking people. I think one of the founders at Google was shilling this shit. I don't know. I still think Monero might be a little bit better, but it's preference. I mean, you like Zcash more, you like Monero more. I don't know. But look at Near, boys. It's soaring. Look at that shit. Let it fly. Come on now. Near's pretty much almost back to where it was after the flash crash that came in. Woo! Traxy, look at all those equal highs. They're asking for it. The Bears are asking for it on this bad boy. They're asking to get punished. I mean, look at that volume that came in, boys. Look at that fucking volume. Let's go. Good fluidity, good volume, stacked market structure on top side. Let's run these guys over on the top side. Rune's in the same pocket. Rune might take a little bit longer, but it has the volume. That's bearish. Equal highs is resistance. Yeah, it's gonna dump to zero after it gets up to here. After it gets to 330, it's going to zero because the equal highs. RNDR just took a big nosedive after a big pump, but it's doing great. It's doing great. Everything that had high volume on the dump is the ones that are doing good today. You've got old school stuff doing great today. You've got big market caps like Solana and XRP that are doing good today, but they're not leading the pack on this one. Solana and XRP are going along with the ride because they're getting carried. Solana structure is dog water, but it's getting carried right now. Same thing with Doge. The volume on the dump was not as high as you'd want to see it. But they're gonna get carried. If everything goes up, they're gonna get carried. Same thing with XRP. The dump look at this lackluster volume that you saw in the dump. Here's the difference. Here's the difference, right? Look at the volume on the pump. Look at the volume on the dump. Then you look at something like near. Look at the volume on the pump. Look at the volume on the dump. Zcash. Look at that fucking volume. It doesn't mean there's definitely a lot of people selling, but it's not enough. It's not enough. All we need is the stock market to survive and we can run it. Bitcoin is kind of, I'm not as bullish on Bitcoin. I'm still bullish on Bitcoin, but not, Bitcoin still has a lot to prove to me. I still have to see a lot of things happen on Bitcoin before I'm going to be as excited. But it looks better. Obviously, it's looking a lot better than it could have been. We could have been at 90K right now. This is a critical spot, man. Why do you think alts are doing what they're doing? We're not out of the woods, but goddamn, it is a crazy time on the markets right now, boys. It is a crazy Friday. Because they're all scams? What, the altcoins? Every single financial instrument that doesn't pay a yield is a fucking scam. Any single instrument that doesn't pay a yield is a scam, dude. Why? Because you need someone to buy it at a higher price than you bought it at to make any money on it. How many people were saying that Bitcoin's gonna go to zero? Bitcoin dumps like, 10, 20%, and they come back and they're like, I told you it's a scam. I'm not saying Bitcoin can't dump, right? Bitcoin could dump pretty in a big way. It's not going to go to zero, though. It's too late for it to go to zero. If it was going to go to zero, it should have done it at 3K. I agree, Power. What do you see when something dumps like crazy? You see unknown demand fucking come out of the woodwork. What do you see when something pumps like crazy? You see unknown supply come out of the woodwork. They're not resting in the books. You're not going to see it in the books. You don't know how much demand is out there by just looking at an order book. You don't know how many people are willing to sell by just looking at an order book. You can't know that. If you did, you'd never be wrong. Think about it, man. What did we see at Bitcoin here? When everybody was saying Bitcoin's fucked last year. Do you guys remember if you were on the stream last year when we were down here? We could have been fucked here. But random fucking demand just came out of nowhere. I knew it came out of nowhere in a big way, man. This shit was scary as fuck, right? When we went under 50K. But if you looked at the books during that time, demand was coming out of nowhere. It was insane. And then where did we hold? Bang on, right? And then the sniper, 58K. Same thing is now. I sound really bullish, but the same thing is true on the other side of the market. We could get a wave of supply that comes in that nobody expects. That's also true. It's one of the beauties of the fucking market. It looks like this bad boy wants to keep going. S&P, let's go. You guys probably heard me get scared this week, and that was for good reason because of what could have happened today. I mean, we still can dump, and we still have dumps, right? Let's not get this mistaken. Bitcoin's sitting at 102 right now, 103. It took a beating, and it could still take another beating. I just thought that we could have seen it today. Look at the stock market, baby. Rebound. The S&P wants more. What's that VIX looking like? Uh-oh. What's the VIX looking like? Come on now. Look at the depth of liquidity, dude. The spreads are tight as fuck. Somehow I think Urban's net long. I told you guys I haven't flipped bearish. I didn't flip bearish when we were at the lows. I was getting close to it though. I was getting close to it. I'm telling you, the time I flip bearish is if Bitcoin doesn't hold 89. If Bitcoin doesn't, we can dip a little bit, right? If this, I flip bearish on Bitcoin if this happens. Oh shit, the fucking, there we go. If this happens, then I flip bearish. Until that happens, I'm not bearish. I could get close to getting more neutral though. And I got pretty close because we were getting closer to the idea of that. But if you heard, you can go and look at the recordings. I told you, I'm still long-term bullish on Bitcoin. It's just getting scarier. And it still is scary, dude. Don't get it mistaken. We're not out of the woods. I'm not full gung-ho bullish like I was in 2024 just yet. We still got a ways to go. 2-year bear cycle? Probably at least a year bear cycle if we don't hold this. This is okay if we do this, because we have some room to breathe. But the closer we get to these lows, the worse it looks. It's the same thing here. We're fucking close to that low. That's an equal low, pretty much. That's still fragile. We've got a long ways to go before I'm full bullish again. This still is fragile. This is no bueno. We're not out of it yet. We got to get the fuck away from these equal lows. And even then, we got to start printing new highs. We got to get highs above this high. And even, you know, we're still in a battlefield, man. I sound excited today, and I'm telling you, it's because I thought we could be at 90K right now. Stock market with a huge rebound. Looking to go green on the day. Doesn't have too much time of it still being open, but 30% pumps on alts are not normal in a bear market. It depends. In modern day bear market, you could have you could be right about that. But we've seen some funky stuff before too. I need everyone to understand though, I am not 100% bullish right now. We could still get fucked. So this is not the time to just disregard all your principles and just go all in or something like that. You still want to maintain your principles. How would you recommend learning trading today? In other words, what we do if you're starting completely from scratch right now? Um, well, the quickest way to learning is to experience pain. Humans usually don't learn very well unless they experience pain. The vast majority of humans, and pretty much every human, just to different degrees. So, like, whatever amount of money you want to put into trading, take like 10% of that and put it into trading, and then learn, you know, from actually doing. But yeah, I mean, I can't power. Thank you for saying that because I can't just say that. I can't just be like, oh, just watch the stream and you'll learn. Um, what you need to pay attention to in trading, most people, the route they'll go down, and I can almost guarantee everybody in this chat did this because I did it too. Is you're gonna look at every fucking strategy. You're gonna look at all the indicators, right? Because that's what people push, right? They push indicators. Watch the fucking price. Put hours into watching the price. It's not until you've gotten a certain mastery over the price that you should dip your toes into fucking indicators. But people usually go the other way around. They'll go indicators first and then they'll go to the price. You have the advantage of me, and a lot of the boys in the chat will probably endorse what I'm saying here. Price action is the most important. Watch the fucking price. The next thing you should do is look at where a lot of people are going to lose at the same time. Find the area in the price where you think a lot of people will say, it's not going to go above here, it's not going to go below here. So looking at this, right? A lot of people are saying it's not going to go above this, and a lot of people are saying it's not going to go below that. And then wait till it does. So you want to, it doesn't matter what language they speak, everybody sees this as the low. They could speak Chinese and they still see it as the fucking low. Everybody sees this as the high, right? So there's a lot of people in the chat who think it's not going to go above 105K. It's not going to go below 98K. And then eventually it does. After it does that, then you pay attention to, okay, what happens after? What happens after that happens? And depending on what happens after that happens, then you have an opportunity. Sometimes you don't have an opportunity. No, I trade derivatives as well, dude. Absolutely. You can't hedge unless you're trading leverage. I mean, I guess you could hedge without leverage, but it's not, I mean, it's a different type of hedge. That's pretty much the route, PJ. That's the route. You go, the route of almost everybody in here went from, they go indicators heavy, they learn that indicators are fucking dog water. Then they go to price action. They learn price action's pretty good. And then once you have a good mastery, you're never going to have a full mastery, but once you have a really good understanding of price action, then you could introduce some indicators into it. You could throw a couple indicators if you want. But the main thing that you need to know is that, like, the indicators are, you need to know how much weight to put into it. Like, throwing some salt and pepper onto the steak is fine, but you need to understand what the fucking steak is. The steak is not the salt and pepper. Look at that S&P fly, boys. Rebound. Let's fucking go. We're not there just yet though, but we're doing good. Yeah, I've been net long for years, man. Quantum, if you've been in the stream, I've been bullish on Bitcoin for the, pretty much since the beginning of 2023. I don't flip until I see the big structure broken. I get close to it, like I get scared, like anybody else does. Like I'll get closer to being bearish during certain moments, but I haven't flipped the long term bias. Until we break the big structure, I'm still bullish. I just get a little bit less bullish. It's not because I don't like Bitcoin. It's not because I'm not a I'm not a fan of gold or anything like that. It's just I try and be as founded in reality as I can, regardless of bias. Look at it fly, boys. S&P almost green on the day, dude. It's fucking moving. It's moving. VIX almost red on the day. Pump it the fuck up. We got close though. Don't guys, if this works out nicely, don't forget how close we got because you need to be able to see, when it's likely for things to break. And we're still not out of the woods. I guess all of us have been in the long term are permables, really. Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna keep inflating whatever is this is being traded against, right? It's traded against the dollar. If the dollar is just gonna always become more scarce, then it's easier for these things to be bullish, yeah. Okay, we're getting into deeper supply pools now. It's getting a little bit deeper. God, the S&P has no fucking chill. It really doesn't give a fuck right now. Look at that daily candle. We're very close to being green on daily. It's almost retraced the entire gap. Vixie Poo? Vixie Poo, let's flip this bad boy red. We don't got too much time on the legacy markets, but let's flip it. Got about an hour and some change. We got fucking close there, boys. That was dangerous. That was dangerous territory. We're still kind of close to it too. The alt market seems to believe that we've already left dangerous territory. Nvidia, yeah, I mean, dude, the Max 7 is just, I mean, the Max 7's insane, right? The PE ratios in the Max 7 are fucking insane. So you're gonna have massive swings on them. The PE ratios are insane. I don't know if we've hit the point where we're at the top though. Never underestimate greed, boys. Michael Saylor is in euphoria, dude. His company was real close to some danger. I mean, you can see it from the arrows, right? Rebound here or doom. Now it looks pretty good for now. We'll see though. He probably doesn't believe that Bitcoin was in a dangerous spot or that his company's prices were in a dangerous spot, but that was the reality, in my opinion. Now it worked out, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't in a dangerous spot. I mean, I'm happy for the guy, but he probably doesn't believe that there was ever a doubt. There was probably never a doubt in his head that Bitcoin was going to rebound and his company was going to rebound. Why is his company even a thing nowadays? Just close it all and go in Bitcoin. I don't know. A lot of old heads would rather buy something, that instead of actually going and buying Bitcoin, they'd rather buy treasuries or they'd rather buy the ETF. Dude, a lot of boomers don't even know how to right click on a computer. The sophistication of computers with boomers, most of them just know how to do email. Come on, you know I'm right about that. Some of them know their way around it. I'm just saying, like the majority of them are. If their internet goes down, they got to call somebody up to come fix it. Not all of them, but why do you think IT has been so lucrative for so long? When most solutions to fixing technology is literally just restarting it. Also, the YouTube that we created last week is picking up some traction, boys, if you want to check it out. There's a video on there where I called the dump, and there's a video on there where I called the reversal before they happened. And by the way, if you ever hear me say like, "Oh, structure's broken, we might dump here," I'm never gonna be like it's 100%. I can't. I can't say it's 100% we're gonna dump, it's 100% we're gonna reverse, because that's not true. I don't know that for sure. All I can tell you is what I think is has how the probabilities have shifted. That's it. I can't tell you that we're gonna pump to the moon. I can't tell you that we're gonna dump to zero, because nobody can really tell you that. Yeah, that's the YouTube channel right there. If you want to give it a sub. Yeah, we're still in murky water. This is really impressive though. The S&P is almost green on the day. VIX is almost red on the day. Alts are showing no sign of slowing down. A little bit of slowing down on things that got pretty crazy, but okay, we're getting a nice little wave coming in. If someone tells you like Bitcoin's gonna go to 1 million or Bitcoin's gonna go to zero, they don't know. And most of the time, they're not being malicious. It's probably just ignorance. Like they probably truly believe whatever they say, but they don't know. That's the person that was asking Dub Lexa. You were asking, where should you start? One of the big things you need to understand, which is a really uncomfortable thing to understand, because we don't like to think like this as humans, but nobody knows for sure what's going to happen. They could manage hundreds of billions of dollars. They don't know for sure what's going to happen. It's all it's all probabilities. So if you don't know for sure what's going to happen next, you should never bet your whole farm on what's going to happen next. Because things could be looking great, and then all of a sudden China tries to invade Taiwan and everything fucking dumps. Or things could be looking terrible, and all of a sudden Trump announces that the United States is going to start buying Bitcoin. China finished a new aircraft carrier. They're getting ready. Yeah, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Unless you are in the fucking meeting room weeks before it happens. But just because you don't know for sure, does that mean that there's not money to be made? Of course there's still money to be made. You just have to protect your downside. Protect your downside before you look at your upside, and the upside will take care of itself. The better you are at protecting your downside, the easier the upside will just naturally come. S&P only 0.10% away from flipping. Altcoins really do not give a fuck right now. Walmart's still pumping, McDonald's still pumping, S&P's starting to float back up. Amazon's already green again. Let's go, Amazon. There's actually, if you guys are looking for another cheeky way to make money on the side, you can just arbitrage between Poly and Kalshi. There's a couple things you want to make sure though if you're gonna do that is you want to make sure there's enough liquidity to properly arbitrage. So what you do is you go on Polymarket and you go on Kalshi or however you pronounce it, and you just look at differences in arbitrage opportunities. And when you're looking at that, make sure you're also looking at depth of liquidity. It's not crazy gains, but it's pretty much risk. It's not 100% risk free, but it's pretty close to it. Like even the World Series, there was an arbitrage there too. That's cheeky as fuck. Yeah, I mean it's not it's not kind of stuff that I mean if I was to do it, I'd just have a bot. I get somebody to make a bot for me to do it because the ROI on it is not that crazy, but it's pretty low risk. It's just the depth of liquidity is not really there. So if you have a small account or you have a little bit amount of money, you can be really nimble and do it. But if you have a bigger account, it's the liquidity is not that deep. The same for sports betting. Yeah, but don't the bookies for sports betting, don't they ban you for doing that shit? If you want someone to make a bot, I can connect you with a crack dev. I mean, it wouldn't. There's a couple things that you have to keep in mind when you're doing that kind of stuff. But at its surface, it would the simplicity of it is there. There's a lot of developers in the chat. No, I know. There's a lot of programmers and coders in the chat. Press one in the chat if you're a programmer, developer, coder. I don't know what the fucking proper terminology is, but if you're one of the things I just listed, press one in the chat. If you're a vibe coder. Liquidity is still deeper than a motherfucker. Come on now, here we go. S&P is still chugging along. I'm telling you, if we get a good Monday, man, the people are gonna go even harder on risk on. Vibe coder equals a pleb with an LLM. One of the boys in here is like one of the lead AI guys at Google, or at least that's what he claims. I don't know. I think it's Reaper, right? Reaper, you here today? Yeah, this community is pretty diverse. We've got like professional gamers in here. We've got AI guys. We've got guys that have worked at liquidity provision companies like Citadel. We've got degens. Where are my degens at? We've got McDonald's line workers. We've got OnlyFans guys. Where would you even start with an arbitrage bot? Well, both Polymarket and Kalshi have API that you can tap into. So you just want to read, you want to tap into both their APIs, and then you want to read the difference in between the percentages. I quit IT to be a beekeeper. That's respectable. I think the Latvian sniper is a farmer now. I think they went from programmer and trader to farmer and trader. Yeah, there's the Latvian sniper. We've got some cool people in here. And of course we got some degens, right? To be fair, everybody here is a little bit degen if you're playing with Bitcoin. Oh boys, we are getting close to the flood. A little bit higher and oh, you guys can't see it. Hold on. There we go. We're a little bit closer and we're heading towards the flood zone. When music, there's music going on right now, right? You guys can hear it or no? You mean like the Bitcoin music? Not that, you know what I mean? Like what, the little bubble music or like the pump it up song and stuff like that? The hype songs for the pump? Why are we pumping today? Because S&P's pumping, man. VIX got rejected. So far. VIX hit the pocket. So you can see market makers and liquidity providers are back to providing big time liquidity. Look at the depth of that liquidity, boys. They're back on big time. Winter Mute is in full steam ahead. We'll see though. We'll see if that'll be enough. If this Vixie poo flips red on the day, I will be so fucking happy. And S&P flips full-time green. And the daily candle's green, but we need to retrace the open too. Did you ever have a real market maker on stream? If there's a market maker in the chat that wants to come on voice chat, you're welcome to. You can tell me why I'm a dumbass. It depends though, because there's plenty of different types of market making. From small time to big time. And unfortunately a lot of the small times got absolutely fucked during the October flash crash. I'm still gonna talk about it every once in a while because you got to pour one out for those guys. Small time market makers, you know, with like 7, 8 figures, they got absolutely dumpstered when Binance didn't let them reduce positions. Skinner lurks in here pretty often. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, if you're providing liquidity on both sides of the market, even if you're not at a big scale, you could be considered a market maker. As long as you're providing liquidity on both sides, you're technically market making. Like XRP and Tron were great ones back in the day. It's just keeping the you need to keep a certain amount of volume to have it be like, you know, if you don't want to be bogged down with having to keep a certain amount of volume, then it's not really worth it. Yeah, but if Skinner's here, you can hop on I can call you on Discord if you want, Skinner. What happened to FET? What is it pumping? All the alts are pumping right now, dude. People are feeling the risk. They're feeling it, Mr. Krabs. Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? FET's up 72. Yeah, dude. Things are moving in a big way. Yeah, I mean there's definitely short squeezing that's going on too. But as far as like if it's a short squeeze, then we should go down just as quick as we went up, or at least down pretty fast. If they can maintain the float where they're at, that's a real good sign that we actually have demand on the spot market. There's sticky demand that's following it, and liquidity is being provided on the bid side without retreating. Like the spreads are tight right now, dude. One last exit pump, maybe. Bro, your name is MicroStrategy 2100 and you're talking about exit pumps? You're a MicroStrategy investor and you're bearish? All right, we've hit the bottom. So there's a MicroStrategy investor in here that's bearish. We've hit the fucking bottom. I still wouldn't mind a nice little tag down to 89K. Still wouldn't mind a nice little spot to pick up some discounted coins. But the fear I have of going down there is if we don't hold it, then we enter bear market. That's the scary part. If we do put this structure to the ultimate test and we fail there, then we head deep into the winter. It seems too dangerous? Yeah, it does. Part of me wouldn't mind it, part of me would be, shaking in my boots. Yeah, it would be a dark, cold winter if that happened. Saylor has said that his company can maintain any Bitcoin price without liquidating. I don't know how true that is. Maybe somebody ran the numbers on that. Traxy, you probably know the answer to that, right? By the way, I know I sound really bullish right now, but Bitcoin's still only at 103K. We got a long ways to go, guys. We still could get the fucking doomsday. I know people don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. It's all a probability that we go higher. It's not a guarantee. Yeah, buy orders at 22 on the NQ. Yeah, 4 hour bottom wick coming in early. We'll take the early bottom wick. Legacy market's not going to be open for too much longer, but it only has to crawl up a little bit to flip green on the day. How do you feel about leaving this low? This low that we're leaving behind is fragile, man. If we actually do leave it behind, it's a fragile low to leave. It's technically better to just wipe it out, but I don't know. We need to get the fuck away from 100K with haste. We got to get away from 100K on Bitcoin because we go back to it and it gets really scary again. It's bad to get away from it too, though. I mean, it's there no matter what, right? It's garbage structure at the bottom no matter what. That's what happened, all right? We formed pretty sloppy, bad structure at the bottom. But, I mean, look at the fucking Nikkei. Look at this shit. It's a dinosaur. Yeah, the dinosaur with the long neck. It's reaching higher. The dinosaur is reaching higher to eat the green leaves. Hold on. Hold on. Give me a second here. There we go. There we go. Needs an incoming asteroid. There's the incoming asteroid. What is that Burj Khalifa ass tree? Now that's a chart right there. Yeah, frame this in the fucking loop. I'm gonna make this an NFT. I'm gonna sell it for 0.69 Bitcoin. Or the highest bidder. But the highest bid gets capped at 0.69 Bitcoin. Anybody interested? Happy little tree. There you go. Now it's a happy little tree. Bob Ross. Yeah, the Jurassic indicator. No, yeah, we're gonna turn this into an indicator, boys. I'm gonna leave that up for the next time we look at the Nikkei. Leave it there. I want to see it touch the comet. Come on now, Biddy's moving. It's schmoving. It's grooving. S&P only 0.05 away from green on the day, boys. Vixie Poo down big time. The Moon Boys are coming out in full force. This whole week, the Bears have had a stranglehold on the chat. Okay, liquidity getting a little bit thinner here, just a tad bit. Spot buying is still pretty strong. It's tapered off a little bit too, so it's slowing down a bit here. Good news is 4-hour bottom wick is already confirmed, so we don't need to do that if we're gonna pump it. We don't have to retrace it. I can't believe there's 130 people in here just watching me draw a fucking dinosaur. Hey, as Bitcoin lovers, we also like trains, we like dinosaurs, if you know what I mean. Trains, dinosaurs, programming, Bitcoin. Boys, I think we've definitely I think we're somewhere in a category here, somewhere on the spectrum that's pretty easy to define. It means mom did a ton of Tylenol. Yeah, bro, go ask your mom how much Tylenol she did. I'm gifting you a sub for that, Santa Minis. That was good. That was good. Yeah, your mom did too much Tylenol when you were in her womb, and now we have you. Hey, listen, your mom and your grandma think that you're special, and that's all that matters. I was born in the communist era. What else is there in that category? Obviously, trains and dinosaurs. There's got what else is in there? I guess airplanes would fit in there too, maybe. Do you guys have the type where you can see colors? We got any non-verbals in the chat? That's why there's so many lurkers. We got the non-verbals in here too. We have a whole army, an autist army. We see colors to recognize proper Ichimoku cloud. Exactly. That's why the Ichimoku cloud is so popular, because look at all the nice colors on it. Look at that. We hit the green cloud, boys. We hit the green cloud. It's time to go higher. I don't see any red clouds. Deep dive into ETH. I've talked about ETH a good amount of times before in the past in the recordings. But it's at the mercy of Bitcoin right now. The structure is not that great. Bitcoin's kind of at the mercy of honestly what I kind of want to see with ETH is if we do dump, we get a bull dip right into 29. A bull dip into 29 would be ideal. ETH has been one of those coins that actually really likes the resistance turn, or sorry, support turn resistance. Um, we need to get back above the previous lows, which we're doing right now and we're fighting for, which is a good sign. You got a bunch of stack liquidity, never had a proper test here, so turbulence, you could see it in a couple different spots. The more locals at 41.10. So you got stack liquidity here on short sellers, meaning short sellers are all dogpiled in the same spot. If that squeezes, it could take us all the way up to 41. You could look to hedge there. If we do see a failure here, then you can look to add on at the previous lows where liquidity was at 34 or 35, so something like this. So if you see this, then you can look here. If Bitcoin dumps, if the S&P opens red and things turn sour, then I kind of want to see a bull div form and a retest of 29. If Ethereum holds 20, if we get a dump to 29 and Ethereum holds it, then Ethereum's going to the fucking moon. If we don't even need to go down there, then yeah, first spot of big turbulence is likely going to be at 41.1, 41.10. And then, of course, there is a possibility of seeing a little bit of a support turn resistance, but I don't really like to trade those that much. It's just Ethereum likes support turn resistance a lot. The good news is for Ethereum, there's a lot of silver lining. We have a bunch of stack liquidity all the way up. So short sellers are dogpiled into the same spot pretty much all the way up on Ethereum, which is a good sign. It shows weak, fragile structure for the bears on Ethereum. Little sad that the volume wasn't high, but this is pretty good volume off the flash crash, which is a good sign. I wish this volume was a little bit higher, but it's still pretty good, all things considered. So, yeah, Ethereum doesn't look too bad. It doesn't really have the local fragile market structure that Bitcoin has down here. And then, of course, Ethereum against Bitcoin did hold where it needed to. It's a little bit sloppy, but it's good enough. So, Ethereum looks pretty good, man. Ethereum looks pretty good. Of course, if Bitcoin dumps significantly or the stock market dumps significantly, then Ethereum will likely follow that. So if you're an Ethereum holder, you do kind of want to root for Bitcoin here and the stock market. Otherwise, we could see the test of 29. If that doesn't happen, then like I said, 41.10. And if that fails for a head, you can hedge that. Then if that fails, add on to 36.65. We played one Gamba today, champ. I guess next stream I have to do another Gamba. Because, you guys did 12 fucking... I gotta raise the price of that or else people are just gonna keep spamming it. But I did do marbles today, so don't cash in them. You guys can't punish me with any more predictions because we did the marbles today. Alright, GG's, fellas. Have a good rest of your weekend. Let's all hope for a nice Monday open green. If Monday open green on stock market... volatility index should be looking even better. It closed red, which is beautiful. It looks pretty strong right now. Volatility index continues to follow the plan quite nicely. And I hope that continues. If it does, then everything goes up and to the right. The way we say GG in here, boys, is like this. You say rigged, but the two G's in rigged are capitalized. I forget who did that, but that was very creative, and we're going to run with it. But yeah, while I'm gone, let's pump up all the altcoins. Let's pump up Bitcoin. Let's keep the pump going. There's no such thing as a bubble if you ignore it. And then once the bubble pops, then we'll flip. We'll flip to the other side. The ETH structure, by the way, if you're new here, is pretty straightforward. It's been holding it all the way up, so it's just the next step on the structure. It held that, perfect. It held that, perfect. And now we need to hold this one. It's the next one up, so. We kind of went on a FOMO run and never got grounded back into reality, but it's getting a little bit closer to it, so basically just hold that. All of that is just done in the price action. Don't need no fancy indicators. The 190 milli is about to get wrecked. Yeah, it's really close. So if you want to watch the Bitcoin chart, there should be a lot of action if we continue to pump today. Big floods ahead. If it continues to pump, we're going to see some massive floods. Pretty good fluidity here on Biddy too. A little bit of a front run, but it's pretty good. All right, GG's, y'all. Have a good rest of your weekend. Make sure to pump up those numbers. Does anyone know if Traxy's streaming? Traxy gonna stream? You're probably just gonna do WoW though, right? So. What do you mean you got scammed, Kazaki? Oh, you redeemed something. Okay, Kazaki, what do you want me to look at real quick? Go ahead. Because I think you redeemed it last stream, so, and I said I would look at it for you. Home? Is that a coin or a stonk? Guessing it's a coin. Uh, let's see. There's less than a year worth of data on this thing, so it doesn't look that good. The volume on the dump wasn't that good, but the fluidity is pretty good so far. So yeah, a little bit higher volume would have been nicer, but there's not too much data on it. It looks like a bunch of stack liquidity on the local, so it's got to get the fuck away from this local quickly. But that's good fluidity, man. Looks like there's a bull div too. No. Close to a bull div. So you got stack liquidity on this bad boy. If it does pump, first area of turbulence looks like it might be around here on the local. Let me just see. That looks good. That looks good. That hasn't been tested. So yeah, this would be where you'd look for turbulence here. Just marry the local with the high time frame. So if all the alts pump, if everything's pumping, this bad boy pumps into the turbulence, and then you can look to hedge holdings there. But this fragile structure does look kind of scary. Kind of similar to Biddy. It's weird without the music. But there you go, man. Yep. Good rest of your weekend, boys. Enjoy, enjoy. Enjoy the fact that the prices didn't fall off a cliff, because it was definitely possible that they did so, and that's why I was so excited today, because there was definitely a chance we could have seen doom and gloom.